That's naturally Chet Nisan marks the Hilula of Rabbi Shlomo Moussaieff, brilliant Bukharian rabbi. We've actually spoken about him, and we did a tour about him in his synagogue complex. Only, I think it was about 2 years ago exactly to date. He was born in English here, 1852, passed away in 1922. He was a great rabbi. He was a gemstone trader from Bukhara, naturally, and naturally in today's Uzbekistan, and one of the founders of the Bukharian neighborhood in Jerusalem, a place we visited on various occasions before over here. Now, he was born in Bukhara in the year 1852. Obviously, naturally, it's called Uzbekistan nowadays, and he studied under great rabbi Rab David Chafin and Rabbi Yeshua Shushan while he was young inside the various different Torah academies over there. I think he was quite close with other great rabbis he was learning with, including the famous Rabbi Yosef Kojahinov, Rabbi Raphael Potihalov, Rabbi Moshe Yitzchakov, Rabbi Abraham Aminov Talmudi, who we spoke about also recently, and Rabbi Abba Shimon Gaon. These were really great rabbis from the Bukhari neighborhood of that time. Now, he was a great learner in of itself. He was given actually a title as an honorary rabbi, and he would work as a merchant much of his time while he was reported over in the tea trade and in real estate also, and had reported over one of the first banks in Bukhara. And come with the year 1888, he, let's just say, from very much religious Zionistic convictions, he would actually make Aliyah at the time of Palestine, I think with other Bukharian Jews who were actually responsible for founding the new Jerusalem neighborhood, Rehovot HaBukharim. Now, actually, interesting enough, it's a thriving ultra-Orthodox place later on. I think he actually came in 1891, if I'm not mistaken. He built a complex of apartments over there for use for reported over 25 poor families, which included 4 synagogues. Naturally, nowadays, that's a famous Moussaieff complex. It's actually there nowadays. And I think nowadays it has about 8 or 11 synagogues, which is obviously in use the whole time. I think he actually attributed a prayer book also called the Hukat Olam, which talks about, actually relates over also his motivation to move to Jerusalem and the religious conviction within regards to that respectively. I think from the, let's just say, late 19th century until the First World War, the Bukhari neighborhood was one of the most, let's just say, affluent sections in the city. And obviously there was a lot of Bukharian Jewish merchants that came, religious scholars that would come. They were supported primarily by various trading activities, working cotton, gemstones, tea, Central Asia and Russia, naturally over here. And after the First World War, obviously it was a turbulent time period. I think in the year 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution, let's just say, actually occurred at that point in time, and the neighborhood obviously will fall into decline as obviously overseas, let's just say, there was investment from overseas, or income were cut off. Residents were left with, let's just say, their homes in Jerusalem, and they were forced to subdivide and rent out homes and bring in income naturally. The revolution also brought a flood of impoverished Russian Jewish refugees to the neighborhood. Later, the Jews from, let's say, from Iran will actually join the mix, and obviously there was overpopulation at that point in time in that small neighborhood. I think obviously it was originally one of the beautiful neighborhoods of Jerusalem. Then unfortunately it wasn't as beautiful later. It became, like I say, one of the more poorer neighborhoods over there, and considered one of the poorest neighborhoods now in Jerusalem. Obviously now the original glory in modern day of the Bukhari neighborhood has been restored. If you go there you can see, but still there are some ruins within regards to some of these buildings over here. And I think nowadays, modern days, there's new construction also taking place, and obviously the vast majority will be ultra-Orthodox over there. Now, it's actually interesting, he was a collector of rare religious texts and manuscripts, especially of Rav Chaim Vital, one of the great Kabbalists, with the Talmidim of the Arya Kadosh, and the Rambam, Maimonides, literally. And I think his reported over collection of his Sefarim is found in the University of Bar Ilan. Obviously, if you go there, it's very near Bnei Brak, Ramat Gan. Now, it's actually interesting. The family name Moussaieff was taken from Rabbi Shlomo Moussaieff's ancestor. I think Moshe or Musa, in those days it was. The son of Yaakov. I think he passed away, if I'm not mistaken, was born in 1771 and died in 1843. Now, Moshe was a grandfather of Rabbi Shlomo Moussaieff, and Rabbi Moussaieff's father was named Yaakov, who I think was born in the year 1812 and passed away in 1892. And I think Rabbi Yaakov Moussaieff's wife would pass away in Bukhara in 1889. Now he would get married to Rabbanit Esther Gaona, I think, she would actually trace her ancestry back to Rav Yosef Maimon, who was actually a Moroccan rabbi from Tetuan. I think would actually arrive in Bukhara in the late 18th century. Very interesting enough. So I think we've actually spoken about the Maimon family on various occasions before. Now, Rav Maimon married Hannah. She was a daughter of Mula, Jan, Taja, of Shari Zabaz. I think their daughter, Miriam, would marry Rav Mula Pinchas HaKatan, I think in the year 1875, who was, I think, called by a missionary from the traveler of Joseph Wolf, and that was actually named the most learned of the Jews of Bukhara. It was reported over. And Malka, the daughter of Pinchas HaKatan, married Avram Chai Gaon. Rav Avram Chai Gaon. And they say that Rav Avram Chai Gaon, there's a lot of, let's just say, a legend saying that he traveled from Bukhara to Jerusalem on a lion's back, as I think it's actually related over from Rav Raphael Gaon. It's actually printed over. Now, Rabbi Moussaieff and his wife had 7 children, including Yehuda, Sam, Henry, Morris, Rachavia. I think it actually was named after the neighborhood Rabbi Moussaieff helped found the Rchovot HaBokharim, Sarah and Bat Sheva also, naturally. It's actually interesting. Many of Rabbi Moussaieff's sons would move abroad to France, England, I think also to the United States, and they engaged, let's just say, in trade of pearls, precious stones from India, Southeast Asia and South America. It's reported of his son Shlomo was a millionaire and bought the Aleppo Codex and brought it to Israel. It's reported over. It's a very, very great history. And we see like the great religious devotion he's got living in Eretz Yisrael in himself, coming to Eretz Yisrael, that many of the community in the Bukharian neighborhood would celebrate him as one of the people. Much of his property in the Bukharian quarter was declared religious endowment, and which could be sold to perpetuity. Till this day, I think proceeds from the rentals of his properties goes directly to the male descendants of the Moussaieff dynasty, myself, who live in Israel. He passed away with 70 years of age in 1922, and he was buried, he and several of his sons were buried in Har HaZeitim in Mount of Olives, naturally in Jerusalem. Just to add a few more things within regards to him. He sold his business in Bukhara to actually move to Eretz Yisrael. He originally settled in Nachlat Shiva neighborhood and would purchase a house there and then obviously expand and build study halls over there and so on and so forth. He was, I think, a treasurer of the society in that neighborhood, in himself respectively. He was one of the founders of the Kerem Shlomo neighborhood outside the city, I think near the old Shari Tzedek building, called Kerem Shlomo respectively. And I think his granddaughter, Teresa Moussaieff, actually said the neighborhood was actually named after him. He was a founder, builder, purchaser of settlement, and was a man of spirit, they say. A very, very great man in of itself. I think he printed a series of 6-part prayer books, and very interesting enough, and would establish an institution for Talmud Torah study. Also, he was very into antiques and historical archaeological value of the land of Israel over there. I think he had ancient books and 300 manuscripts from the 14th and 19th century. Also, ancient coins, expensive silk, gold, embroidered garments, handmade blankets, carpets, respectively, stones, porcelain in and of itself, loads of treasures. Also, obviously, amassing to a huge amount of wealth. I think he would study Kabbalah also, and was part of the Department of Jewish Philosophy in Bar Ilan University, which can, I think it's reported over, his family actually originate from Cordoba in Spain, and it's actually reported over they are descended from the brother of the Rambam, David Maimonides, who had settled in Bukhara, I think, at one stage in time. So please don't forget to light candles in memory. Actually, it was his Hilula yesterday on Chet Nisan, and please everyone subscribe to the channel. We're nearing 6,500 subscribers. We're a community here. We're learning about great North African rabbis every day. If you're related to any of these great rabbis we're speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more, and wishing you well here from Israel.